Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar today. Today, we're going to be speaking with some of the driving forces behind MilvianAI, one of the most exciting enterprise AI platforms that's out there. We're joined today by Dakota Smith, who's the co-founder for Milvian Group. Dakota, please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Ramas. Hi, everybody. Dakota Smith, co-founder and chief innovation officer here at Milvian Group. I'll just give you a little bit of a brief background on myself. I was a Marine 5 years, cryptologic linguist, before going and getting picked up by AWS as a solution architect. I spent quite a few years as a solution architect for AWS, and before moving out into the partner ecosystem, where I was helping people implement generative AI, AI/ML solutions in the enterprise. Um, and now I mainly oversee the development of the MilvianAI product at Milvian Group.
Very nice. Well, great to have you here. We're also joined by Dan Lay. Dan, you are the lead product manager. Please go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had a very similar background to Dakota. Didn't join the Army, but I did join AWS right out of the gate as a solutions architect. And my specialty there was machine learning, particularly in the computer vision area. But machine learning in general, I worked with some big enterprise in the media entertainment industry, as well as did some work in Korea around security and detection and everything there. I took those skills over to Milvian Group, where I continue to work on some CV opportunities, and now I'm the lead manager, product manager for MilvianAI, and super excited to be working with LLMs and continuing that track, just being involved in a lot of these AI projects.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, guys, let's dig into it. Dakota, let's start with you. You are, obviously the co-founder and helped, create Milvian AI. What was it that you saw in the market that led to the creation of this product? And tell us a little bit about who it's for and what challenges it solves.
Yeah, great question. Great question. So, yeah, what led to the creation of the product? Really, I guess starting about 4 years ago, we started seeing a lot of customers wanting to implement a lot of the same things, mainly around chatbots, chat assistants. However, over time, it actually evolved into um, more of like a back-end service where the LLM was performing tasks that would assist in processing data, moving data from one place to another. And this is where we saw a huge opportunity to actually focus heavily on that area, since you can only go so far with a more of like a traditional chatbot. I think the real heavy lifting happens in the back end. So that was kind of the inspiration for Milvian AI, is to leverage LLMs as a dynamic system, a dynamic backend system that can help automate things that would typically require a human being to perform. Things like SQL generation, SQL query execution, document retrieval, and even checking for relevancy on are these bits of details that I'm about to provide back to the user even relevant for the question they're asking. Of course, some of the challenges, I think that kind of arose in the industry around this was having accurate context, relevancy of the information that's actually being retrieved, the security and the privacy of having LLMs access your data, and of course the complexity to implement for people to implement this kind of thing themselves. Those are the key things that we're looking to tackle with Milvian AI, basically providing people with a platform that lowers the risk of adopting and experimenting with new AI technologies, while also giving them a fast track to production when they find something that works and that they like, and that actually provides value back to their business.
Makes sense, and I think we're seeing a lot of those challenges common across a lot of businesses trying to deploy AI. So Dan, as the lead product manager, you're driving sort of the product, definition and strategy. Can you give us a high-level overview of Milvian AI and what it does?
Yeah, absolutely. So MilvianAI is our LLM-based product, and it does, in my mind, three key things. The first thing is going to be connect everything. So this comes from your business applications, file uploads, really anything that you're using today to manage your work, we are trying to connect to, and we have connections out of the box. Find and analyze information. So this is going to be taking all those data sources that you upload or connect and actually being able to run analysis on it. So we come out of the box with certain analysis tools and, of course, the natural capability for large language models to analyze this thing. And then the third and final step that is the most exciting is going to be the ability to take action on these things. So with tool calling, this is very common, but not just that, but actually being able to create an end-to-end workflow that is automated, that is agentic, and takes advantage of the LLM's ability to go in and use the connections to perform real work in a way that's not destructive and safe. And actually, that is where most companies are going to see the biggest increases to their efficiency. And the reason why we're excited about this is because this is actually perfect for any type of engineering team or business that is trying to integrate AI into their business today. There's been a huge push for that, and that's something that we've seen, as Dakota mentioned, coming from a lot of the customers in the past 4 years. And we really feel that the technology has gone to the point where we can now put all these state-of-the-art methods together to orchestrate agents to take care of the heavy lifting when it comes to utilizing large language models in a scalable way to help businesses do work. And there's so many challenges that we are trying to solve here, and that is going to be, again, the connect everything, meaning we use technologies such as MCP, that just came out from Anthropic, to be able to connect to new businesses. And you'll notice a new pattern is that a lot of these businesses are coming out and hosting their own MCP servers for you to leverage. So anything that your workers were using now can be used by these agents. And, I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but really what MilvianAI allows you to do is create these small little apps, essentially, to perform work, to analyze your data, and to utilize LLMs in a low-risk manner across your business.
And that's very interesting. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Dakota, given that there are so many consumer-focused AI products out there that everybody has probably used, but let's talk about more of an enterprise platform.
Yeah. So, like you said, there's a lot of consumer applications out there focused on everyday folks like myself who want to use LLM applications to, create shopping lists, order their groceries, interact with their smart home devices. Now, one thing that enterprises need when it comes to enterprise grade smart applications that leverage AI in these ways is ability to control what goes into and what the LLM actually sees. That's massive. So control over their own data, setting their own privacy rules, and ensuring that it's meeting their internal compliance and regulatory requirements, as well as facilitating governance on how users are actually interacting with the platform. And this comes in the form of guardrails in MilvianAI. Companies and administrators are able to actually set organization and team level guardrails, even down to the individual level, for what data they see, what data they're able to access. And actually, when it comes to data access, this is another really key point with MilvianAI. MilvianAI doesn't directly pull in data from data sources into a local or into the SaaS hosted data lake. What we're actually doing is we're leaving your data where it's at. We do not require a migration or anything like that. We're actually building up an AI optimized data lake, a map, if you will, of your data sources, what it consists of, and generating dynamically descriptions for everything that we touch with MilvianAI. Then the LLM is actually referencing that context to go and make decisions on which data sources it should pull from in order to answer your question as a user. So this lends itself, of course, to having the ability to understand context based on a user intent. So when you ask for something, you're going to get an answer that's relevant to whatever you just asked for. And then finally, it's scalability and ease of implementation. So Milvian AI is built to scale. It's also built for high resiliency and high availability. This is just native. We're building on one of the world's largest cloud providers and taking advantage of as many managed services possible in the back end here so that you can rest assured that the data context and data metadata is actually protected, it's secure, both in transit and at rest. And we also have this built on services that are highly scalable and resilient.
Oh, that's super cool. One of the big issues for folks has been, especially in the enterprise world, is how do we make AI more accurate, more relevant for the business users? Dan, can you dive a little bit deeper into what are you doing in the product to make this Milvian AI more accurate and relevant for business users?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a struggle, I think, for a lot of AI products, is making it so that it's super light and abstracting a lot of this detail from the users, right? As Dakota mentioned, we have an automatic retrieval system where you don't have to provide any details or manually label all your data, which a lot of big companies are doing today in order to stay accurate. And so when you abstract that away from the users, that takes out a little out of control, right? You would expect it to become less accurate. And so the key here is not to remove user interaction, but rather to offload user interaction to something that is less heavy. So for instance, we're going to take them labeling data, offload that to the AI, instead move humans to being the fact checkers. And what I mean by this is when you're interacting with our, say, our chat interface to interact with the application, our system will come back and say, hey, is this the correct table? This was what I was planning on using it for. And so we've noticed in our early testing of our prototypes of this product that users would often have their own internal intuition as to what they actually wanted. That's not actually naturally expressed in language. Not all the time is the human actually giving enough information for an AI. We've noticed AI actually gets what we would expect from that prompt, but the user didn't accurately translate their own wants into text. And so by allowing the LLM to check itself against the human and for us to record those interactions actually and self-learn essentially by creating this database of, oh, the user has asked to perform this task before, and in that case they said, don't look at this table, look at this one instead. Now the LLM can actually automatically retrieve that without having to re-prompt the user on that. And so the next time around and each time it continues, that connection becomes stronger and stronger. We also have a number of other techniques that we use, things like graph databases to create connections and all sorts of more state-of-the-art orchestration and agentic methods that we are implementing on a day-to-day basis and benchmarking. So we benchmark all our techniques with internal benchmarks, and we're super excited to release our first set of internal benchmarks soon, shortly after the release.
Very cool, very cool. I mean, I think that's much needed out there in the industry. So Dakota, tell us, what are you most excited about in the product that you cannot wait for the whole world to see?
Yeah. Okay. So, great question. What am I most excited about in the product? I would have to say this is the model context protocol, or our implementation of it in MilvianAI. Just like Dan mentioned earlier, model context protocol, or MCP. It's really, that is the secret piece of technology that allows us to integrate and connect to virtually anything. I'll give you a little bit of background on MCP and actually why this is such a big deal. Over just the past few months, we've seen widespread adoption of MCP, or Model Context Protocol. Starting out, Model Context Protocol was actually created by Anthropic, and it was quickly adopted publicly by OpenAI, which is kind of a direct competitor. Now, when you see something like that happen in the industry, you know right off the bat, this is going to be something that's big, and a lot of folks are going to get on this. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen right now. We've already seen companies like Atlassian and HubSpot actually adopt MCP internally and create publicly available MCP servers hosted through their own service. This is a really big deal. What this allows us to do is basically use a universal language in intelligent applications that are LLM enabled, like MilvianAI, to connect to those sources that support MCP. And not only are we able to retrieve information from those sources and those platforms using that protocol, we're also able to take action against them. And that's really, in my opinion, the sole purpose of MilvianAI. We want to enable people to take action using AI and AI agents.
That is super cool for sure. We cannot wait to see that all in action. So Dan, given all of that, what can actually business users do with MilvianAI? Tell us a little bit more about the use cases that they can use to make their work faster, more productive, better.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple use cases that we're actually targeting on release or soon after release, just based off of a lot of what we've heard from customers and what we've done in the past. And the first one would be autonomous customer service resolution. So what I mean by this is oftentimes customers will report some sort of bug fixes or ask some sort of question about a product that they need help on, right? This could be anything from, how do I use this, or this isn't really working the way that I thought, or is this feature available? And we can actually through MilvianAI, set up a workflow that analyzes customer service agent things coming in from any customer form submissions, and you can run this on a daily basis, weekly basis, and what the AI can do is then determine where's my internal sources and data that I can access to be able to answer this question. And then based off of whether it found relevant enough information, it could do an automated response back to the customer. Or it can actually notify internal support like, hey, I don't quite have the information to do this. Here's what I could find. And could you help this customer out and finish the rest of the support process? So that branching ability, that decision-making ability, right, off of actual internal knowledge is a type of automation that you could not do in the past that you now can do with an LLM and with this type of integration.
And that's because, this information you need is unstructured and spread everywhere in different silos, different files, different wikis, documentation, etc. And what is with MilvianAI, you can bring it all together, and AI can really intelligently go through all of that and then figure out what the right answers are.
Yeah, exactly. And another business use case that we're actually super excited internally, and part of the integrations that we're shipping out of the box are going to be able to support this, is going to be the whole sales workflow. Things like our sales folks often talk about the amount of load that it takes to be able to spot trends and just process and update their reports when it comes to sales, right? One salesperson might have an entire region, which can include hundreds of companies, and they make phone calls every day. Having to update all that themselves is pretty difficult. But with a connection to something like HubSpot or Salesforce, you now can have an agentic workflow that perhaps pulls data, like if all our sales folks take notes, put them in places, sometimes even have recordings, right? Being able to point an agent and say, hey, grab my notes for the day, update the positions on the sales in my application is going to be a huge efficiency help to sales. And then on top of that, being able to gain quick insights and analyze how their sales are doing is just the cherry on top.
Totally, yeah.
And then I also, just aside from business, even regular users like me, I keep track of my day through something like Notion, and a regular user could even use this outside of their business to help them be productive, even on a day-to-day basis. If you have some sort of tracking mechanism through an application that keeps track of your tasks, or even developers with Jira, you could connect to that, set up email reminders, or even have it update and just say, hey, I've written code for it, I did the push, can you mark this as done? as a product manager, I come in and stand up every day, and we constantly have to ask and update our different tasks. But if it was easier for developers to do that with just some natural language, which they can through MilvianAI, then even on a hour-to-hour basis, I'm going to have a lot more accurate results on what's being done and be able to plan better, because when it comes to that, having more relevant data, especially when it relies on human entry, is really, really important. So all these workflows all help. Like, you can see that the ability to connect, the ability to get data, and the ability to take action on that data is really the core of all these use cases, and the core of what MilvianAI can do. Take action.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing because once you've connected everything up and all of this data that never was before connected, and now you can use natural language, it just opens up, it seems to me, so many potential use cases that you can do with this. And so that's super exciting. Dakota, let's talk a little bit about, how can folks actually get MilvianAI and try it?
So if you're interested in using MilvianAI, I suggest going to milvian.ai and signing up for the waitlist. There is a private beta coming out before the end of the month. And don't worry if you missed the boat on the waitlist. We will be taking access requests on a case-by-case basis after the private beta is actually live. So there's still a chance to sign up. And if you have any questions, the contact information is there on the website, or you can reach us directly on LinkedIn. And any question at all, happy to dive into a call with you and flesh it out.
Yeah. And to build on to that, we would love to hear about your use cases. So part of signing up for a beta is, if you have an interesting use case you'd like to share with us and for us to develop and help support, we do offer $200 in credits off of the private beta. So more incentive for you to join as soon as possible.
Well, that is fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Dakota. Thank you, Dan, for joining us, and thank you to all our listeners out there for dialing in and watching this webinar. We hope to see you again on more future webinars where we will be diving deeper into some of the key enterprise AI technologies and some cool things coming. So we hope to see you all. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.